Hey guys, what's up? Kalamazi here. Pulled up the Warlock changes page to show you all that, and ad block updated and decided to flashbang me at 3 in the morning. Thank you. Hello everybody, what's up? This is going to be a video highlighting the massive Warlock hotfixes that hit PTR after raid testing occurred today, whatever it was, after heroic bosses. These changes, these were pushed to PTR at like, I think 9 p.m. Eastern after raid testing ended around 5. Warlock is the only class to get these buffs. And there's some mage changes, I don't know, spell slinger shit. They get their weekly overhaul, I don't know. But Warlock got a lot of buffs today. Hot fixes, not even buffs like waiting for a week's build. Chances are high they saw testing today, we're like, hey, AF and Destro are really undertuned, which it is, and they buffed it. So hats off to Blizzard for that, 1000%. There are big buffs, legitimately, to AF, Demo, Destro. Our tier sets were nerfed, but we were given compensation buffs, and don't worry, we're going to go over this here, okay? So we're going to jump into it. There's a lot of Florida math in here. If it's wrong, I don't know what to tell you. It is what it is, but we're going to get right on into it. I might look at some things in combat real fast if I feel like it, because I'm really tired. It's been a long day. But yeah, we have raid testing when this video comes out, probably in like 6 hours from now. Come by the stream, check it out. I'll be doing lock stuff, obviously, and going from there. Okay, so for Affliction, I have a notepad here as well with the percent buff. So we're not looking at percent buffs like in correlation to 38 to 73. We're looking at like the overall percent buff, what this was, for example, right? Now, Shadow Bolt, an Infernal Bolt. Infernal Bolt was buffed a very, very large amount for Demonology. Not Destro, sorry, Demonology. Shadow Bolt was buffed large amount regardless for both. But so for AF here, the first buff here, they are doubling the value of Shadow Bolt. Shadow Bolt has been buffed by 100%. 100% Shadow Bolt buff. That's pretty big. Obviously affects Soul Harvester AF a lot too, with the modifiers to Nightfall, Shadow Bolt, all that kind of stuff. Big buff there. It's also buffed for Demonology. We'll get to that in a little bit here, but there is that. To a similar extent, they buffed Drain Soul by 25%. Keep in mind, Drain Soul's damage is doubled when a target is in execute range, so it's more of a buff when you get to execute for the damage amp being doubled there, all that kind of stuff. There are some modifiers in PvP too. I don't do this, but you can look at it there if you want. Let me zoom a little bit more for y'all as well. So there's that. So Shadow Bolt buffed by a lot, Drain Soul buffed by a lot. Obviously affecting Soul Harvester more than it does Hellcaller due to like Soul Harvester's hero talents, all that kind of stuff. Keep that in mind because I nerfed Soul Harvester's tier. We got buffs to compensate. It's okay. Haunt has been buffed by a whopping 50% as far as the impact damage is concerned. Haunt hits for like 5.5, 6. I think it hits like 5.5 million if it crits when it hits the target. It's actually crazy. It hits really hard for Soul Harvester and things. It probably hits pretty hard for Hellcaller too. And they've also buffed the modifier. The damage you deal increase from 10 to 12. This is actually pretty substantial. 20% buff there. So your dots, your trinkets, your damage effects, all doing 2% more than they were yesterday, with Haunt modifying by 10. It is now 12. In addition to that, we also have Unstable Affliction being buffed by 25%, probably both in Dispel range as well as like the raw power here. This will likely shift you from playing Dark Harvest as your single target talent in the capstone part of the tree to Xavius' Gambit. We do play Xavius' Gambit currently in retail due to the tier set buffing UAs and things. It's better, but in S3, that set is gone. So we're back to playing Dark Harvest, but with this buff, I would assume you're probably back in Xavius' Gambit. See where it goes, but that's how I've been playing today. Looks pretty good. So pretty big buffs overall here to AF. Once again, affecting Soul Harvester more than Hellcaller. Obviously, UA, Haunt, Drain Soul, Shadow Bolt buffs affect both, but affecting Soul Harvester more. Pretty big though, regardless. Demonology. Demonology got some buffs too. Demon's doing pretty well in PTR, but a lot of that was based around Soul Harvester's tier set. Let me actually find logs from today. Warcraft logs. Soul Harvester's tier set is doing a lot. There was doing a lot for Demonology and single target. If you look here, first boss is basically single target. On Heroic, here's your tier set. Rampaging Demonic Soul. It was doing 20%, zoom in there, of my overall damage. This is just basically the 2-piece. It also gives more damage to where's it at here? It also buffs Demonic Soul itself, and it buffs Wicked Reaping as well. We're also generating shards. The tier set was very, very good. Spoilers ahead, they have nerfed this. They didn't indicate how much it's been nerfed in this article. These changes have not been announced by Blizzard yet. These have just been data mined by Wowhead. I found them last night, sent to me, and we dug them up on Wowhead. I'm assuming this is probably cut in half, looking at its damage. It's doing about 10% in single target now for Demonology. Still good. Still strong, but not like... Yeah. Now, obviously, getting nerfed sort of sucks, but the buffs that AF and Demo have gotten compensate for that. Demonology is still doing a lot of a good bit of damage in single target. Not like crazy OP or anything, not like Shadow or Frosty or whatever else is doing a lot today, but still good. It's still strong. So yeah, the tier got nerfed. We'll find out more tomorrow in a blue post today. This video comes out, but it's still good. Let's get into it. First change here, Shadow Bolt. We talked about it already. Shadow Bolt was buffed by 143% for Demonology. It was buffed a lot. Infernal Bolt was, there you go. I might have said Infernal Bolt was buffed for AF. If I did, I'm sorry. I'm dumb. But obviously no Infernal Bolt for AF. But for Demonology, it was buffed a bunch for Diabolist. So there's that. Demoniac is just Demon Bolts. Demon Bolt itself was buffed by 35%. Once again, not looking at this number here, 293 to 396. Looking at the raw percent overall, what this difference is here. 35% buff here. Implosion was buffed by about 15%, give or take. Implosion being an odd spot of them buffing imps more and more and more, and not really having a reason to implode until you get the higher stack target counts. This might change it a bit. However, they did buff imps by a bit as well. It's not listed here though, so we're going to skip down the destro, and there's more undocumented changes or uncategorized below. We're not done yet, don't worry. Destruction, Chaos Bolt has been buffed by 10%. To be buffed again, probably, honestly. Bolt should still probably hit a little harder, but hey, we'll take it. There's that. Conflagrate, buffed by 30%. Pretty good. I really doubt it pushes you out of Roaring Blaze territory into triple Conflagrate as a talent. That is a choice note with Roaring Blaze. Doesn't feel like it, but it is. But either way, good buff there. Cool to see. Mage stuff, nobody cares. So here's the tier set. They added a modifier to this. I guess they internally modified this also as well. I think they cut the damage in half. This is Soul Harvester's 2-piece. Realistically, it wasn't as good for AF. It was better for Demonology because of Shadow Touched and Demo Mastery affecting it. We talked about it after testing today on stream that it would be really good if they came in and nerfed Soul Harvester's tier set, but buffed Demonology accordingly to compensate. Because Demo, outside of its tier, honestly, has been pretty mediocre. The damage feels pretty subpar. It doesn't really sustain as much. It just like bursts with Tyrant and things and sort of drops down a good bit. Like, it's not... When I say burst with Tyrant, it bursts when you pop Tyrant from your tier set. Tyrant is terrible. But the changes today, I think, are better for Demonology as a whole. Health-wise, just general damage profile-wise, not relying on a tier set to be like what makes you good, right? This is actually pretty solid. They nerfed this. We don't know how much. It feels like it's been cut in half, but we'll see tomorrow. Now, on top of this, there are more changes here down below, which we didn't really get to. They have buffed the Chaos Bolt damage by your Overfiend, I think by the same amount. Yeah, to comp, because Overfiend launches Chaos Bolts too. I actually missed this. I didn't see this till right now. So they buffed Overfiend's bolts to compensate for Bolt being buffed. Very cool. Dashro stuff. Tyrant. Damage of Tyrant was buffed by 60%. So he's swinging. Again, not massive, but he's swinging. Fell Firebolt from your imps. Also being buffed by 15%. Unstable Affliction was already buffed. We know this. I don't know why this is all flagged like this, but whatever. But yeah, so Imp's getting a buff, Tyrant getting a buff, and Overfiend also getting a buff there. Now, you might think it's over, but it's not. I just had a coughing attack, so I had to stop the video. I'm back. Conflagrate buffs we know about, Demon Bolt buffs we know about, all that stuff we don't know about are the Incinerate buffs. Incinerate is being buffed by a whopping, as long as this is right, 50%. Which adds even more value to Burn to Ashes, which is already good, but getting a substantial buff. So they came in after testing today and we're sort of like, yeah, I think AF and Destro sort of suck. Let's buff them and bring them up to the current tier's tuning. We'll see where it is tomorrow. And they're also like, hey, while we're at it, let's nerf Soul Harvester's tier set, but buff the specs accordingly to make them still good, with where they were. So I'm going to be honest, like, I've heard people are sort of angry about this. I don't know if they fully understand or have seen the buffs. I think, unless I missed something here in my testing and all that, this is actually really good. Like, hats off to Blizzard. This is a really, like, legit good rebalancing of damage. Literally a hotfix in between testing, going from heroic bosses to mythic today. Really good. So, I mean, I'm not saying we're in a great spot, like, I'm saying good isn't like a good analysis of what needed buff and nerf and change things without like over nerfing or over buffing or whatever. So we'll look at combat briefly here with demonology. I'm not going to do them all in this video. I don't want it to be super long. We'll look at a few. Alrighty, so we're going to be looking at demonology here. I forgot to put this up on the other screen, but here are the buffs overall. Destro Demo AF. Want to snip it, take a picture of it, do whatever you want. This will probably be announced tomorrow. There could be a couple of hidden things. I think they nerfed Soul Harvester's tier set. I think they nerfed Diabolus tier set, maybe just for demonology. I'm not sure. There'll be a blue post tomorrow highlighting all this stuff for sure. But this looks to be about what it is. I could be wrong. I don't know, but we're going to look at damage here. So I'm playing Soul Harvester single target. This is the build I'm playing. This, I hit better. I don't know. I don't really care. It's 3 in the morning. I'm tired. So we're going to pull a pet out. We're going to launch here. We'll look briefly at Soul Harvester, briefly at Diabolus Demonology, and really briefly at maybe AF and possibly Destro. I don't know. We're going to lump this all together in combat. I'm not going to put a million timestamps to different specs. I'm sorry, but we're going to launch it. So we're going to siphon, get it rolling here. I'm not going to pot any of this. We're just going to go natty. So double Shadow Bolts, and then playing a Soul Strike. Build some pets here. Pull this up. Launch some dogs. Bolt. Tyrant is back to maximizing 10 imps again in your cast and stuff. This is going to be 9 once you get a proc, something like that. That's okay. 9 for the road. So watch Soul Harvester. Burst damage is going to be down here. Overall damage is up here. He still does a lot when he comes out. He still bursts a lot in your opener. He's still very Tyrant-esque, right? But you'll see, the longer this actual pull thing goes on, he'll drop off more, right? He's not doing 55 million, whatever he was doing before. He's doing like 30, 33, give or take. Tyrant is sitting right here. Keep in mind, Tyrant's damage was buffed by 60%, but Tyrant has always sucked for Soul Harvester. Even when you had Reign of Tyranny, because you didn't have the damage amp in the Demonology class tree, or Diabolus class tree, like Diabolus has. So keep that in mind, but this damage is not bad. I've seen Demonology Soul Harvester putting up around like 4.8, 4.9 million, around like the 3-minute mark. Varies a bit, a little bit of RNG in certain places, but, you know, that's just how it is. Yeah. So we're going to start next Tyrant ramp here. Ramp into this thing. Watch the Soul Swipe from our tier bonus jump. You can see it's not as strong as it was before. It used to be like a commanding first place. So Tyrant here, Tyranting at 4.5 million. It's climbing again. Tyrant's climbing a bit as well, somewhere down here, I'm sure. Climbing. Damage is climbing to 4.7. I don't want to hardcast a bolt. And dogs 4.8, and this is about where you sit coming in like these smaller tyrants, but with the buffs to demonologies like core rotational spells, imps and demon bolts and shadow bolts and all that, you sustain somewhere around here, right? Demonic Soul's still hitting for 3.8 million. Soul Swipe's critting for 4.3 million. If you take a look at Shadow Bolt, hitting for 2.4 million. I'm hardcasting a bolt. I don't care anymore. 2.4 million. Demon Bolt hitting for 4.2 million. These buffs, Demon Bolt and Shadow Bolt, I mean, they do make a difference. They matter a bit. So we have Big Tyrant coming up right about now. So we're going to build in this a little bit. Siphon this. Launch a Grimoire. Purple Dog. Bolt a bit. And so this is about what I've seen heading into these larger Tyrants. And watch our damage climb here. When we launch 10 imps and stuff. Tyrant, Trinket, Strength, and watch damage climb. 4.5 starting us off roughly. We'll probably end around 4.9, 4.8 give or take. It's pretty good, and it's pretty consistent too. We've got a bit of charging coming in when he's active, ending around 4.9. This is about what I've seen. This single target is still pretty good. This is very close to what we saw before with Soul Harvester's tier set. A little bit lower, so they probably tuned things a bit to be like a bit downwards from where it was initially, but it's still pretty good. But once again, are we as good as like Shadow Priest or Frost Decay or things in testing today? Without externals like PI and AUG, like I got and Zyra got in testing earlier? No, we're not. Like, you know, this in testing today was 19% on the first boss in single target. It's 10% here. So I'm pretty sure it got cut in half. But honestly, it's okay. This output is still good because they buff other things. I mean, my Felguard Hatred's hitting for a good bit. It's 4.3%. Would be higher if it wasn't like a post-Tyrant window, but still decent. Imps are hitting hard again. They've been buffed for the 85th time this expansion. Pretty good. Umbra Blaze, 4%. Anathema, Shadow Bolt. They're all hitting relatively hard, right? So call it like 4.8, give or take, depending on what you're looking at there. Briefly, let's look at Diabolist and single target, because the difference between Soul Harvester and Diabolist has been very, very large when it comes to single target based settings with this tier set. But it doesn't appear to be the case anymore. They've been neck and neck for me in testing. Now, I will say Diabolist has Abyssal Dominion, which further buffs Tyrant's damage and the pets, also buffs its own damage. So the buff from Tyrant's to Tyrant's Demon Fire today, that's what? 60%. That's also being modified more by Dominion. So Tyrant's going to hit for, I think, like 5.5% of our damage here, roughly, playing this version of the spec. Let's go. Bolt, launch the Grimoire, launch Big Purple Dog, let's go. Now, this Diabolist is a bit more extended bursty, if that makes sense. Like, when you get your pets really rolling and stuff here, you'll see the damage just sort of climb. It doesn't burst as much off the bat, like looking at the overall here, but when we get cycling pets here and stuff with Tyrant out, when that amp really starts picking up more, our Mother of Chaos spawns in here, for example, launch some dogs, begins to climb even more, climbing more. Now we're hitting that 5 million peak. Now we're going to siphon, we're going to launch this, watch this Inferno Bolt we have here. Watch Inferno Bolt. How much it hits for? Bolt. What did it hit for? Like 5-6 million? It just, okay, it hit for 3.5 million there. Inferno Bolts crit for like 7 or 8 million now from Big Mommy. Like, they crush. Ruination hits really hard too. I had a 10 million Ruination earlier. Things hit pretty hard. I think I might even miss my dog cast here when I was yapping. I don't know. But this sustain is actually pretty good. Diabolist still sustains a lot of damage. You're cycling through pets quite often. Big Mommy's here again to empower another bolt. Let's see if it crits. It did 5.8 million right there without other damage amps. We have dogs out. We're going to go into a Tyrant here. Just hand into a Tyrant again. 11 imps, strength. Ruination hits for something. I don't know what it hit for, but it's cool either way. The damage is very, very similar between Soul Harvester and between Diabolist. Now, the one thing here you'll notice is that Eye Blast appears to be a lot lower in single target than it's been for Demonology, at least from what I've seen in recent testing. I think this might be because they nerfed the tier set, maybe just for Diabolist. It might, or maybe just for Demonology. It might be both Demo and Destro. I'm not sure, but Destro seemed a bit higher when we were testing it out for Eye Blast damage. But regardless, they gave a lot of power to just Demonology. You're not relying on your tier set to be strong again, which is great because that's not where you want to be if you're any class, right? You might be a walking god, but the moment your tier set expires and a new patch comes out or new expansion, you're in the toilet again. That's been locked for a while, barring like being really good on some fights and undermine and stuff, right? So we'll ramp this Tyrant again. This is big Tyrant, so we're setting it up here. Bit of a weird ramp, but we'll make it work. We're going in about 4.5 million, which is just about where Soul Harvester was too. The Big Mommy's here, Tyrant's here, and I got a prayer. Hitting my trinket. Pit Lord's here as well. Ruination, Demonic Strength, Big Meteor hits for, I don't know, a lot. And watch our damage climb more here the more we get into it. We're going to have a dog set coming up here. Empowered Hand, Bolt, Dogs. It is very, very similar to Soul Harvester. If you're in a world where you're playing, where they're neck and neck, I think you realistically just play Diabolist in most of these settings. A better stack cleave profile with Ruination, with Big Mommy cleaving, with Big Axe Dude swinging the axe all the time. Very, very close. Demon Bolt, 4 million hit. Shadow Bolt, 2.2. Infernal Bolt, 6 million. Ruination hits for 2 million. It's like 5 million if it crits. Fellseeker's hitting for 2 million as well when it crits. The damage is good. It's there. Judehoon's hitting hard. Bellfire Bolt's here. Immutable Hatred, 7%. Like, Demonology feels like it's in a place where you're not relying on these external buffs for a long time. Obviously, PI is probably still pretty good for Demonology. I don't know. I'm not getting into that, but either way, like, it looks pretty good. So we'll see where it goes. We'll look at Soul Harvester and AoE very, very briefly. Then we'll look at Destro and AF in single target. We're not going to do everything tonight because it's late, and I don't want this video being an hour long. But so here's AoE for Destro, or for Demo. We are playing Fire Dog here. We are playing Shadow Invocation, all this stuff here. We are not playing Fellow Invocation. It might be better to play it. Keep in mind, Doom Guards do not proc on dummies. They proc at a much, much, much lesser rate than they do anything else. So, you know, You might see one or two here, but it's much better in actual content versus not. So we're going to wait for this Grimoire to come off CD. The main thing I want to look at here for Soul Harvester is how much damage your Demonic Soul does. Because honestly, I haven't even tested an AoE yet. I sort of forgot. So here we go. Launch them. Boom. Boom. Pull this up. Toss it over there. Some dogs. Start weaving some brands. I don't know what it's going to do. It's probably still pretty decent, but not what it was before. So we're going to timer with 8 here. Hit Mother Saved us perfect. Big dog's out. What's he hitting for? He's still thrashing. He's still hitting pretty hard. The burst is still pretty strong. We're not going to be bursting to 80 million like Shelly did in the Priory, but it's still pretty strong burst on that 1 minute cooldown, right? But outside of that, well, he's going to fall off a good bit to our normal rotation in a minute here, right? And if you're weaving in Dooms and things, you'll have Doom Guard spawning in more often than I will here because they're bugged on dummies. Demonic Soul is doing a lot too. Maybe they want to tweak and tune this bonus a bit more in AoE. I don't know, but it feels very, very solid in single target tuning wise. Maybe they'll elaborate more upon it in AoE at some point, but he's still up there, still cranking. Jude Hoon's here, Charge Iron's here, all that stuff. There's that. Very, very cool. If you're a fan of it and Cleave and stuff, still pretty good. So that's sick. I'm sure Diabolos is similar as well, but I don't have an hour to look at it. So we're going to swap to AF here. You can play Soul Harvester AF with Shadow Bolt or Hellclaw and test it all out. I'm going to play Shadow Bolt here because it was buffed by 100% for Soul Harvester. I'm going to play Soul Harvester because Shadow Bolt was buffed by a lot, and it affects Soul Harvester more than that's Hellclaw. Can you please leave combat, please? And yeah, brother. It's 3 in the morning. Blizzard, you're killing me, please. Demo dummy testing is the worst thing that I have to experience in my entire life. Worse than the heart surgery I had 10 years ago. All right, we're back in. Here we go. Lock in. We're going to play the Imp here, no big deal. We're going to play Soul Harvester single target. This is the build I want to play right here. I am playing Xavius' Gambit over Dark Harvest because of the UA buff. Shadow Ball buff by 100%, Drain Soul 25, Haunt, impact damage hits 50% harder. The modifier is now 12%, was 10. UA buff by 25% as well. So, cancel that. I'll wait for this to expire. I don't know why I have this, but we'll wait. We don't want to skew anything here. We're not potting A's either. Good enough. Lock in. So, Affliction's damage is, spoilers partially ahead here, not as strong as Demonology's, but it is not super far off either. If they do, for some reason, think Demonology is too strong in single target, which looking at a lot of other classes right now, I don't think it is. I think it's just good in single target, which is where it should be, post changes and all that. Maybe they change it a bit, and then honestly, AF is not that far behind. AF has good single target burst. It does not sustain as much damage as Demonology does, though, outside cooldowns. I mean, you have like these peaks and valleys with Rapture windows, all that kind of stuff. Soul Harvester building upon that even more with the way that your Demonic Soul functions, shard refunds, all that kind of stuff, you know, yada yada yada. You can see here though, Soul Swipe from him, not anywhere near as good as it is for Demonology. Demonology has Shadow's Embrace, Haunt, damage Demonology has Shadow Touched and Mastery modifiers, but it's still doing a bit here. But, you know, not as much. Thankfully, they buff other things, though, putting AF in an okay spot damage-wise. This is a bit lower than what I've seen for, like, average sustain, but we will be bursting about now, so let's get right on into that. I love 2 TC stacks. Let's go. Rapture, 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 bang. Gotta refresh UA in a second tier 2. It's gonna fall. No Nightfall proc yet, very sad. Launch a Haunt, they'll give me one there. Bang. Bolt, Bolt. In case you're wondering, Shadow Bolt, I can't dump all these shards fast enough. Shadow Bolt is hitting for a solid 3.53 million. At least the highest one is crit for that. The average hit overall for Shadow Bolt has been 1.36, give or take. That's pretty hard. Dragon Soul would obviously hit a lot harder if you're in permanent execute like this thing is here, but I don't want to test that because it's sort of skewed. But there's that. You have Haunt here. Haunt itself hitting for 3.8 million. I've seen like 4.8, 5 million hits too, depending when it hits and crits and all that stuff. It's pretty good. I will also say this damage right here does seem a bit lower than what I've seen for AF with Soul Harvester testing, but RNG's RNG. Yeah. So, a couple more bolts here. Dump this TC proc. Refresh these dots real fast, because why not? Singularity. Soul Rot. A pot. Why not? Who cares? See it a bit. Some Rapture starting at 3.6 here. We're going to pot this and see what we end at. Big bolt launch there. Launch a bolt for TC procs, or Nightfall procs don't overcap. Still rapturing, still rapturing. I've seen it a bit higher, being honest. Somewhere around like 4.5, 4.6. It's could just been a bad pull. But either way, the damage is better than what it was. I think like pre tier set tuning and buffs and all that, obviously. But if you're looking for like AF to be your permanent single, or like your best single target spec, it might need a little bit more help still. But step in the right direction at least. We'll see where it goes. Test it out in tuning tomorrow, and go from there. Last bit here we have is going to be Destruction. I'm going to play just Hellcaller for this. Hellcaller will do more damage with Incinerate than Diabolus will. Unless some modifier I'm forgetting, but we are playing Burn to Ashes, typical Hellcaller single target build, and we are going to go from there. Destro buffs, Chaos Bolt 10%, Conflagrate 30%, Incinerate 50%, and my Green Demon that spawns in from this being buffed by 10% Chaos Bolt wise as well. Just open up. Also, this is going to be low in permanent Shadowburn range. I'm just not going to Shadowburn on cooldown and try and replicate non-execute. I know it gets a crit modifier. I can't change it. It is what it is. Let's go. Lock in. Don't forget, you'll hit your Malevolence and cast the bolt first before you Conflagrate due to the 2 stacks of backdraft coming in and all that. Shadowburn twice. Okay, we're going to slow it down a little bit there, but launch some bolts and see how it looks. Bolts are hitting for 5.4. So I had a Chaos Bolt earlier hit for 12 million. It was with like massive procs, basically all the procs we could get, with a potion, with trinkets proccing, all that on pull. It hit for 12 million. You might see something like that here. You might not. I don't even know what it hit for initially right there, but the max we had was 5.4. With big modifiers, potions, all that proccing at the right time, you can get some pretty big bolts rolling in. Besides that, Incinerate is hitting pretty hard once again. Max Incinerate being 3.78 million, Chaos Bolt being 5.4. I wouldn't mind more buffs to Chaos Bolt once again to make it more like that big, hard-hitting, Chaos Bolt style you had for a long time. But regardless whether you like Incinerate hitting a bit harder or not, it does indeed help shore up the spec a bit and make it a bit more competitive based on where it was. Its sustain is not terrible. It hit my Malevolence here as well. Let's go. Give me some backdraft stacks. It's not terrible. Not amazing, not horrendous, but there are a lot of fights this tier, like early on, that could be good Destro fights. The Demon Hunter Council boss as well, which is like a mid-boss, pretty good Destro fight, good Wither fight and all that. So getting baseline buffs coming in for it and stuff, pretty solid. And honestly, if you have a spec that is like built a lot around, or if you have a class that has like 3 DPS specs, one's good at single target and stat cleave, and the other 2 are like good at like spread cleave or dot based cleave, and they're all like tuned properly, that is a really, really great tool for raiding. Even M+, right? Being able to approach different encounters with different toolkits and go from there based on what you can do. Just build upon that is very, very good. Be like a Swiss Army knife in a sense. So depending on where everything goes, I mean, testing is tomorrow, or today and Thursday and Friday. I'm definitely going to play some other specs in these fights and see where things land. So we'll do one more Inferno window here. I don't have pot, but it's fine. Trinket, Malevolence, whatever. Let's see how hard these bolts can hit for. Bolt, 6 million. With a pot, good Trinket proc, and the right like Alchemical Chaos Flask roll, I've seen like 12 million. So you can def get there. The burst is not bad. Obviously, if things are lower or higher in health, you have more or less Shadowburn stacks, but that's it. It's not terrible. Black and Soul. Weird that Destro's the better dot spec over AF, but hey, I'll tell you. Max Bolt 6.5, Max Incinerate 3.7, Shadowburn Wither, Conflagrate, all that. Looks decent. But regardless, to summarize all this, these are the buffs that came in today from what I can see in my Florida math. A retooling of damage for Soul Harvester, looking at Demonology, looking at Affliction. Overall, buffs for Affliction, buffs for Destro. Demo might have gotten maybe like a minor knockdown in single target, but it's still good in single target. And you want the retooling of the spec being good better versus the spec being and the tier set carrying and propping up the spec itself. So that's where I'm going to leave it. No outro really a whole lot tonight. I want to go to bed. It's late. Thanks for all the support, guys. If you like the video, like and sub. It helps out a ton. We're pushing for 100k subs this year on the channel. And I'll catch y'all again in 10 hours for raid testing. Peace.